X-Ray.
Brilliant John Williams soundtrack. I actually owned the album from the soundtrack from the first film when I saw it when I was 12.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I'm Christine Alexander. You're listening to X-Ray FM. My guest co-host, Ed Hill. Okay, that's Star Trek. We're talking Star Wars. Okay. Oh, my God. With us is Macy Bishop. She is with the 501st Legion, known as Vader's Fist. It's a volunteer-run organization dedicated to bringing costume enthusiasts together under a collective identity. They support the promotion of Star Wars through building and wearing quality costumes of the Galactic Empire. Macy Bishop is an XO in the 501st Legion's Cloud City Garrison. She's with us today to discuss the organization, life in the Imperial Army, and Star Wars fandom. Good morning.
And I should mention on the front end, Macy Bishop is an actual woman, which is prima facie evidence that there is at least one living woman who gives a damn about Star Wars. So be encouraged, guys.
You're sitting in the studio with two of them. Two. Count them. Macy Bishop, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
It's my pleasure to have you in the studio, and I'm a fan as well. I remember seeing it in the theater when I was 12 years old, seeing Star Wars, and it literally changed my life.
Absolutely. I know that my dad took us, and it was back when movie theaters, you didn't have one on every corner, and we stood in a line that seemed like a mile long.
Yep.
And that wasn't to see that showing, it was to see the showing like two away.
Right, exactly. So. And I remember one of the things that was profoundly important to me about Star Wars was the introduction of the Force. And it was a religious experience for me because I had been raised a Catholic, and even at 11, 12 years old, I wasn't sure if I believed in God. Mm-hmm. And then I heard the Force, and I thought, oh my God, that is what I believe in. The idea that all things are connected, all people are connected, and we are all part of the same spirit.
Sure, absolutely.
In effect.
Absolutely.
So we can get into the Force later.
Okay.
But first, I want to talk to you about the 501st Legion.
Okay.
Tell me, what is the 501st Legion?
The 501st Legion and Rebel Legion, because we have the dark and the light side, of course.
Good to know.
And I am part of both.
Oh.
It came back, it started in 1997, and it started with some fellas who wanted to make the Stormtroopers, and they caught on, and George Lucas said, hey, what's going on over there? And said, okay, well, you can go ahead and do this as long as it's going to be for charity. And that has grown to more than, I believe it's 10,000 members worldwide. We're in over 50 countries. So we are considered the local chapters of the 501st and Rebel Legion. So the Oregon is Cloud City Garrison and Kashyyyk Base. And so I am the XO of Kashyyyk Base. And I also handle all the PR for us as well.
Now, that's interesting to me. So George Lucas actually gave you permission and said, as long as you do it for charity. Is that why it's the 501st Legion, that it's a charitable organization?
It is a charitable. Everything that we do is 100% charity. So anything that you see us at, if you see money being raised, we receive zero funds. This is a group of fans that just absolutely love Star Wars, and we make costume quality outfits that are actually approved. There's an approval process you go through, and those have been set by the standards that are of movies. So we should be able to walk onto a movie set and look just like the character.
Wow, yeah. That is fascinating. So do you dress up as a stormtrooper, or what do you particularly like to portray?
The characters that I do are, of course, the ceremonial Leia, which is at the end where she places the medals on Han and Luke. I also do
and Chewie.
Well,
Yeah. Doesn't Chewie get a medal?
Chewbacca does not get a medal.
Are you kidding?
I know. Of all the things that they didn't fix and add, they didn't add Chewbacca getting a medal.
I didn't remember that. I just assumed.
No.
That's racist.
So, of course, I also do the everlasting cinnamon bun, as they call it, A New Hope. That was my first one that I did. I also do, of course, Slave Leia.
Oh.
Yes, that's one that I do.
That's the one the guys
I know,
love.
That's the one that they love. love. I also recently completed my Ray outfit, so I have a Ray now.
Very cool.
And then with my 501st, I actually am Juno Eclipse, which was Darth Vader's in the offshoots of Star Wars. That's Darth Vader's pilot.
Oh, okay. That's something I wasn't familiar with. Did you have a question, Ed, or are you just listening intently?
Well, I'm just waiting for. I mean, so there are. So we already established that there are at least 2 women in America
Yes.
who care about Star Wars. I'm just intently listening to hear mention of a third.
Oh, you'd actually be surprised. We have over 100 active members, and I would say at least 30 of them, at least.
Do you hear that, nerds? You aren't alone.
See, here's what I think is the difference, Ed. When we were kids, when we were younger, it was mostly men.
Oh, yeah.
But now I think, with cosplay being so big and Comic-Con, I think there are a lot more women involved. And maybe it's the costume aspect of it that brought more women into the scene. What do you think?
I think that's probably true. I mean, costuming is huge for me. I've always loved to dress up. It's
so
a lot of
fun.
fun. It is
Yeah.
fun. And Ed, I would really recommend that you come to Rose City Comic-Con in a couple weeks in September here, and you'll see.
Could I get fitted for a stormtrooper costume?
Well, those are
By a
actually
female tailor?
Oh, Ed.
those are really the stormtroopers are really custom fitted. They come in and they're you have to be trimmed down and fit specifically for that.
That would
person.
make sense. It seems like that type of a costume.
Yes,
it
it's
really
hard plastic, and you need to. It
wow.
comes kind of standard, and then there's a lot of work that goes into doing a stormtrooper.
fitting it. We're speaking with Macy Bishop. She's with the 501st Legion. It is a charitable organization. She's the XO in the Cloud City Garrison, which is the one here in Oregon.
Yeah, I'm actually the XO of Kashyyyk Base. Steve Squire is our XO of Cloud City Garrison. He was actually one of the founding members of Cloud City Garrison here. I think it was like 15 years ago.
How many
now.
chapters are there in the United States?
I actually don't know that answer. I don't know how many chapters there
But you
are.
said
a
more than
lot.
10,000 people.
Yeah.
Oh, worldwide, yes. And then we're over 50 countries.
So how does one get involved, and why would one want to get involved?
Well, for me, to be honest, they kind of joke with me that they call me Hollywood. I actually started in pageants, and I loved doing charity and dressing up. And one of my friends suggested, hey, have you heard of this organization? Because I had done a Princess Leia costume. And so that's how it kind of came together for me. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I love it. And I get to do charitable work and be around kids. And it was just something that I really kind of fell into. The way that somebody gets started is just having a love and a passion for Star Wars and saying, hey, that's something that I want to do, and I don't want to just go down to a particular store and just buy a costume. I really want it to be of quality. And usually we'll, at that point, with our lovely internet, somebody gets on and Googles or sees us at a Comic-Con or at birthday parties and say, how do I get into this? This is amazing.
Yeah.
We do Make-A-Wish and libraries and schools and Randall Emanuel Hospital over here for the children's. So it really, I think a lot of times comes from that direction. Someone sees us and says, this is amazing. And the next thing you know, they get on our forums, which is you can go on to StarWarsOregon.com, and that will lead you over to our forums, which would be Cloud City Garrison or Kashyyyk Base, and kind of lead you, what's the next step to becoming a member?
So your get-togethers are usually some convention of some sort, or you mentioned hospitals and things
and
like that?
not conventions. In fact, we really only do a couple conventions a year. So far this year, we've already done 131 events. They can be any event really that anybody asks us to come to, birthdays, libraries, hospitals, parades, Make-A-Wish, we support them greatly, Dornbecker, anything that is really charity-based. If we can go there, then we will show up, and there's usually some sort of donation involved. But that is always 100% given to that charity.
I love that. That sounds really cool. If
It
I
is.
was a kid sick in the hospital, to be able to have a stormtrooper come in or Princess Leia come in, I think that would be fantastic.
It-
Do you do any other characters besides stormtroopers and Princess Leia? Like, do you have a Chewie and Do you have a Han Solo?
Not myself personally.
I
no,
don't mean you,
no. Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of Chewbacca's. We have some Darth Vaders. Several new recruits of stormtroopers, which is really amazing. We're in the Rose Parade, and it looked so great to see the lineup of stormtroopers and the Darth Vader coming down. It was pretty cool.
Really fascinating.
Yeah, and we have some really we have our Jedis and R2-D2s. We have some BB-8s being made, Rebel pilots. You probably name them, and we've probably got one of those characters. Yeah,
that's so much fun. So our theme this week is space. How does being a stormtrooper or Leia part-time impact your views of space? What do you think? How do you? I mean, we all know about Star Wars. I mean, for me, in terms of its philosophy and what it represents, good and evil, light and dark, the fight for equality, things like. I mean, it has so many philosophical angles to it. But how do you see space? Has it affected your idea of the great out there, the
great
universe?
Yeah, the Big Bang Theory type thing. I think that for me, it just really, when you start looking at the sky, especially if you're out in Thai Valley or somewhere where you can really see the Milky Way, you go, wow, what's really out there? And you can kind of see all of these amazing cities and planets, and you kind of go, it's hard to say that we're the only ones out there.
It is hard to say.
Let's hope we don't get an Independence Day type of situation.
Oh, don't scare me like that. Macy Bishop with the 501st Legion. So I want to get back to talking a little bit about Star Wars itself and the philosophy of it. I was very hesitant to go see the new movie. And when I did, I was actually pleasantly surprised. It was nostalgic. It sort of made me remember what kind of an effect the first few movies had on me, and the philosophy of the Force. And I remember, gosh, it was in the late 80s, I think. I remember watching Bill Moyers did a series of interviews with Joseph Campbell. And he talked about his connection with George Lucas. And I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell, but he wrote a book called The Power of Myth. And he wrote a book called The Hero's Adventure. And much of what we saw in Star Wars, especially in The Empire Strikes Back, the second film, was about that philosophy of the hero's adventure and what we all face in terms of our own personal spiritual growth. And he also talked about mythology, the power of myth, and how there are so many myths around the globe that are mirrors of one another. And he talked about comparisons with Jesus and Buddha, and how the myths of Jesus's immaculate conception is similar to the fact that Buddha was born of his mother's side, which both speak of the heart chakra. And so when I found out these deeper connections to George Lucas's writing of Star Wars, I was really much more impressed as an adult. And this is 20 years after seeing the movie.
Right.
So I realized that there were some really deep and profound things that went into the creation of the philosophy behind Star Wars. And I think that the new movie that we saw is getting back a little bit to those roots. What was your impression of the newest Star Wars movie?
Absolutely. I think that all of us, and when I refer to all of us, I mean anyone of a Star Wars fan, we were looking and hoping for that connection again. And I remember a year ago, May, when they had the Star Wars Celebration, they released the newest trailer for it. And at the time, you could see at the very end, you see Han and Chewbacca come in. He says, "Chewie, we're home." And I remember I wasn't at Celebration. I work at an elementary school, and I had to wait for lunchtime to see this trailer. And I remember standing there with tears coming down my face and goosebumps, and a couple of people just looking at me. And they're like, "Wow, you really love Star Wars, don't you?" And I felt that again, and I was so excited to see it, and we all really had a lot of hope for this one, and that's exactly what we got. And kudos to JJ for really taking this task on, because he had some big shoes to fill.
Shoes to fill.
And I think that you're right about the forest. For me, it does come down to connection with people and how you feel that bond. I know in the Phantom Menace, when it came out, there was a lot of correlation with that, because Anakin, he didn't have a father, and there was no father, so there was a lot of that. So it's interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that I wasn't the only one who sort of felt that, and I'm looking forward. Again, kudos to J.J. Abrams, because I was very hesitant to see it, because I didn't want it to be. I didn't want it to disappoint. I didn't want to be disappointed, and I really also was very impressed with the two new stars, Ray.
Oh yes.
And I forget the ex-stormtrooper, the kid who's
Finn?
Finn.
Yes.
I was really impressed with their chemistry and the story that it reminded me of the old Star Wars in the sense that it was adventure and it was connection, and it wasn't all about the technology.
Well, and you can see kind of the passing of the torch. That's really what I believe this film was about. Was you see it moving over to this next generation, and was Luke really the one who was to be the be all end all to really save the universe?
Save the universe, yeah.
Or was there this next generation, or was he what part of that force is it going to be? So we're really excited to see what's going on.
Me too. Thank you so much for coming
my
in.
pleasure.
Macy Bishop is with the 501st Legion. It's a volunteer-run organization dedicated to bringing costume enthusiasts together under a collective identity. They do great work. And what's the website that our listeners can go to?
They can go to StarWarsOregon.com.
Okay, StarWarsOregon.com if you want to find out more. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really had fun.
It's my pleasure. All right. We will be right back, literally, with Craig Harrington with Media Matters for America. We're going to take a very quick break and be right back to talk to him. Thank you.